Benny Johnson on X. WNBA celebrates the 5-year anniversary of George Floyd. So first today, just a heads up, I want to talk about thinking for yourself. I think that it's just important that I explain this about thinking for yourself. I think that is not even considered enough. And I think that people don't know, maybe not know that they are not thinking for themselves. And I want to point that out today, and I want to reveal that. Or just explain what that looks like. Explain what that looks like so that way people can be aware or even hear for the first time. Because it's out of control all over the world. Not just with certain groups. I'm talking about every group. I'm talking about cultures around the world. I'm talking about it's a celebration when it's almost like, it's almost magical when you come across a person who thinks for themselves today. Because it's so rare to see, because most people do not. And I want to break that down. First off, Benny Johnson on X. WNBA celebrates the 5-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. Here's the first clip. We're going to get to that. Here we go.
Thank you guys for taking a minute to honor the life of George Floyd. George was a father, a brother, and a son. And his life, like every life, held meaning. His death exposed the holes that are still in our justice and criminal institutions today. And his 5-year anniversary reminds us that we must continue the fight against criminal, racial, and social injustices. We cannot stay silent. Every life deserves respect and dignity. Thank you.
Okay. So people are just celebrating the fact 5 years ago, George Floyd was, according to the reports and according to the stories, according to the news, murdered by Derek Chauvin, the knee on the neck. We heard about it, big controversy at the time. They're celebrating his 5th year. It was also found in court that his death was due to, well, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But regardless of the fact, that happened 5 years ago. One thing I want to say about that really quick is, and I'm going to make it short and sweet because we got a message to get to, but nobody cares. Not one person cares about that George Floyd situation. Zero. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about it because nobody cared when he was a drug addict. Nobody cared when he was on the streets. Nobody cared. And people think that the black community has everybody convinced as if they care, and I guess to make other people care, but nobody cares. It was all for money, power, fame, and attention. Nobody cares because there's a trillion George Floyds out on the street right now that nobody's thinking about, nobody's concerned about. In my opinion, I think the best way to go about life is not to have attachment to people in general. If they want to choose their suffering, they should. You shouldn't have to try to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And if they don't want to be helped, then they can go out and struggle in the streets and be on drugs and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I think that is better for people is when you let them go off and almost not care in a sense and try to change them. Let them go deal with life and learn on their own. So I'm for people not caring in a sense, right? But what's happening is that people are trying to pretend like they care, right? And it's just not true. They do not care about what happened to George Floyd. It was an agenda. It was, and I'm talking about whether or not Chauvin was a wrong or right for putting the knee on the neck. It looked excessive. We went through that. We already know that, all that kind of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. outside of that, the whole story, the whole narrative about the whole thing was used for personal gain. It was evil. It was evil what they did. It was evil what they're still continuing to do in pushing the same narrative as if George Floyd was an innocent victim who was just caught up in the wrong. It's just lies. And it's so bad that people are just flat out believing it. Flat out believing it and not even caring. And I know why. I know why people are just flat out believing it, even though it's common sense, even though it's flat in your face, not true, even though it's clear why people just believe it and go along with it. And they'll just go along with it. I know exactly why. I'm going to tell you. Is that not everybody, but culture leads you astray. Okay? And I want you to hear me out. Because right now, maybe that triggers some people. Like, what you mean culture leads you astray? Hear me out. Culture leads you astray. Because I realize, and I'll use this situation as an example, the George Floyd thing. The black community always, for as long as I've been alive, and long before me as well, they think as a group, as a culture, right? The culture itself has rules that they live by, most of the black community. Not all black people, but a huge chunk of black people think as a culture. They think as a group. And culture itself has its own set of rules and ways of life. And when people think as a group and they think as a culture, they lose their individuality. So if one person's angry, they're all angry. If one person's happy, they're all happy. They think together. But I realized, and this is what I truly realized, and it was making so much sense to me, that it's not only blacks that think as a group. Churches think as a group. Families think as a group. Friends think as a group. Relationships think as a group. Everybody is thinking, and not everybody, of course. There's individuals out there in the world, right? But many people think as a group or as their culture. Asian culture, black culture, white culture, Indian culture, whatever. Your family, everybody thinks as a group. And that is the issue. That is the issue there, is that everybody is not thinking for themselves. And I was thinking about how that's so weird. That's so weird. And I did it too. 100%. I'm not exempt from this conversation. But there was a point that I got to where I realized what I was doing. And then I stopped. And I realized that even with churches, people think as a group. And I realized that people love to, because it's easy, people love to blindly follow other people. They just blindly just believe what they say no matter what. Because in their mind, they have this person, right? Whether it be this pastor, whether it be their culture, their community, on a pedestal, right? Even the Bible, even God, they put this thing on a pedestal, and they just like a bird, like a parrot, just copy the things that this person says or this Bible says or whatever. And they just copy it. Don't even know if it's true or not. And then they blindly just follow. They blindly just follow people. And the reason why is because they just trust their word because they love them so much or something. They have them on a pedestal. But I don't think that people truly realize what they're doing when they do that, because I didn't realize it until I came out of it. Is what you're actually doing is the person that you put on the pedestal, you're actually setting a trap for them So you're not helping them, right? Because what happens is you love them, you love them, you love them, you love them. They're so smart, they're so wise, they're so this, they're so that. And you have this expectation on them now, right? But as soon as they do something that steps away from what you want them to be, you turn on them, right? And you judge them and you smear them, right? So you set the trap for them. You built them up, but then you also destroyed them. And I realize it's because people just think they blindly trust other people. And it's more common than you even think. And it's because people are following this culture, right? These set of, because it's easier for people to just be told what to do, right? Of course, Christians say, I want to think for myself. I should think for myself. I'm going to think for myself, right? Of course, they all say that, and that's what sounds right. And everybody's like, yeah, you are thinking for, but oftentimes people don't do that because it's easier. It's easier just to trust somebody else's word and fly on the wings of that, not knowing where you're going, though. And you look crazy as you're doing it. And when you talk, it's phony, right? And people don't believe you. And then also you judge everybody. And nobody wants to be around you. And then you think that it's because your circle is small. And it's because I used to say all these things. But I was a problem. I was a problem. You got to start thinking for yourself. That's the thing. Blind trust leads you astray. And I was even thinking about this South African thing. Like, nobody cares about this South African thing, y'all. Nobody cares about that. At the end of the day, nobody is caring really about that. The only people that really care about that is maybe the ones that is happening to or whatever. And then the people in the government are gonna figure it out and blah, blah, blah. And maybe the family members here and there, blah, blah, blah. But nobody on the ground really cares about that stuff to be sitting up here and having like this major arguments about it. Now I have some calls I want to get onto it, and I don't mind getting into it and we can have a little discussion about it. I don't even mind debating about it. But I don't know why people would be thinking that they really care to the degree that they'll just be getting angry over it and want to like slander you for it. And want to turn on you for it. It's kind of crazy. But I realize just people don't think for themselves. And I have the solution that I believe to get rid of all this stuff. Just to break away, get off the grid, go off the grid. Right? Get off the grid, get your life right, and then be able to navigate a little better. Just see a little bit clearer. But first, before I do that, I maybe want to get to some calls. Hold on. Let me see here. But one thing I want to say really quick about that, and then I'll get to some calls, is watch yourself. Check yourself. Remember, culture and all this stuff, the Bible and all that stuff can become very culty. First four letters in culture, what's that? Cult. It can become very culty. And how that happens is that you have this stuck in your mind that you identify with this group. You identify with these things. And it becomes culty. And it ain't nobody else's fault but the people who think like that, talk like that, don't think for themselves, sound like everybody else, sound the same, using the same sayings, using the same words, same lingo. It's just ugly. And we just gotta check ourselves. But let me go to, because I got some people that want to get in on this specific subject, so I don't want to stray too far away from it yet. So let's get into that. Let me go to Josh out of Georgia. Josh, welcome to the show. You're on the air, and then I'm gonna get to the solution to get rid of all this mess. What's up, Josh?
What's up, man?
How's it going? All is well.
All right, what you're talking about is exactly what I wanted to talk about, man, with this South African thing.
Right on,
and,
perfect timing.
Right, and it's like, I don't understand. I don't even think you really had a disagreement, because everybody's going crazy in the comments about that.
Oh,
about
yeah.
Joel, he's a communist now, and what they call you Don Lemon now. I think they're joking. It's like they're just getting a thrill out of it. But what was the point of disagreement? I don't even see it as a disagreement. But I want to break that down.
Josh, let me tell you. You mean like what was the point of their disagreement with me?
Yeah, because I don't see.
Yeah.
I heard it clear, and I listened to it twice,
Yeah.
and I don't even see that as a disagreement. It was
Yeah.
more like a miscommunication.
Yeah, I can't. I'm still trying to figure out what was the thing that they can't let go of. I still don't try,
Right.
because I made myself pretty clear. I also made the point that like I was agreeing with the notion of letting them in. I explained my point a few times, a bunch of different times, but yet people
Right.
still feel that I honestly, if you have an idea, then help me understand,
do.
because I don't.
Okay, I understand it, bro.
Okay.
So what you were saying is that we're in America. We don't really know what's going on around the country, and to us, it looks like, these South African refugees are the same as the Mexican refugees, and it's kind of subjective because we don't know the situation, and we're kind of just giving them the benefit of the doubt because they're white.
Right.
Was that basically your position? And then,
I think part of
generally-
it, that was part of it. Part of it was the fact that we shouldn't just do it just because they're white, but more so the fact that, let's just make sure that we're doing across the board, we're being just as genuine.
Right. And it sounds that sounds like that's the communist argument.
Okay.
Is what they say is that all people are equal, and that if we're doing it to the Mexicans, then we should also do it to the South Africans, and I thought we were America first. And there's a lot of infighting in between quote unquote conservatives, who say America first. Some of them hate Israel, and then some people see, hey, Israel is our brothers, and we should support them. So it's I think it's bottom line is this, like you were just saying, no one cares about South Africa. I don't. I see Elon said we should treat America as a sports team and recruit the best of the best to make our society better, so that our way of our quality of life is better.
Yeah.
And that's all I really care about. I want if I do get married and have kids, I want my kids to have a high quality of life. That's what everybody wants. We all agree on that. And I don't see it. It's awkward to say this, but I say if the country is 90% white, that's our best shot at making the best quality of life for our kids.
Help me understand that logic, though, because I don't quite understand that logic, and I never really have understood it.
Right.
I don't understand how, because somebody is white, that makes them more likely to have a better society.
Right.
Paint that picture for me.
All right. It's the exact same thing as somebody is black. They're usually good at basketball. They're usually better at sports. They're better at dancing than the white guy. That's how I see it. And it's like, It's like, I mean, remember you a long time ago you told the story how you were better at baseball when you were a kid. You know,
Yeah.
you were just out there having fun,
Yeah.
and you just had more talent, and then the other kids they
Well,
weren't as good at it. You know, and it's like
well, what you're
different.
saying, what you're,
Okay.
oh, go ahead, finish your point. My bad. I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's just like different cultures. The white culture is they for whatever reason their talent is just systems management, building the best societies and cultures. I don't know. They're
But
just
why
I
do
guess because they
people?
were.
But why do
Mhm.
people equate that to morality? What that building something and like doing this stuff that doesn't equate to morality. Doesn't mean that you're raising decent kids, but that oftentimes gets painted as what whites do. Now, I'm not saying that maybe in general you maybe may see in America, whites seemingly looking like they have it together more than other races. I'm not denying that at all. That it can be pretty apparent in some neighborhoods, but
Right.
I'm talking about the moral argument. The moral argument to me is never measured up to color. So I don't
Right.
understand, but the narrative, like what you're saying, a lot of people say is that if you want it to be right, then you got to make it white. But I just don't. I don't
Yeah.
like, to me. That's just like, I don't. It doesn't add up to me. 'Cause-
Yeah. It's like I think we've been brainwashed, man. To like. I think we've been brainwashed a little bit because I used to see that the way too, you know, and like I thought all men were equal. That's a direct. But I just see now that I'm older, I see the country way differently. That I've been in the black community. I know how that way of thinking and culture is, and how they act. They just act differently.
But if
And
all
then I've been
people,
around.
but if all
Go
people
ahead.
overcome, all people
hmm
overcome, wouldn't they all return to God equally?
I can't confirm or deny that, and I don't really see like, yeah, you know, I just see. Is it? I don't. You know, they haven't. I guess that it's just what it's just looking at history, looking at society now. It's like it's obvious. I want my kids to live in a 90% white community for their well-being because it's safe. It's low crime.
But
It's a high trust society. That's why if
that's
it
a
wasn't,
mistake, though. That's a
you think that's a
mistake.
mistake?
Yeah, that's a mistake to think that way, because
Really?
because what you're doing is like what you're saying is that, and I understand that point because you're saying, well, because white people tend to just mind their business, but like
Uh-huh.
now you just, so then you see a group of white people and then you just can go at them and think they're gonna be your friend. No, they can backstab you too, low key.
They can.
They can do all
That's
kinds of
true.
stuff. They can judge you. They can be
Right.
too nice to a fault. They can not help.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but the blanket statements of just like, well, whites just need to be trusted is wild claim to me.
Right. And it's also wild to say the statement that, hey, America is a white country, and us non-whites, we should acknowledge that. And
But why? But who said America is a white
it feels
country?
awkward to say that, doesn't it? Huh? What?
Who said America is a white country? Why you keep saying stuff like that?
Because it's majority white, and it was founded by white people.
But how do
So
you
that's
know?
like
Who told you that?
Nigeria.
Who told you that?
Huh?
Who told you that?
No one's ever disputed that.
Right.
It's not about who told me that.
but-
It's about that. It's that's just what it is. Like
Says
Nigeria
who,
is a
though?
black country.
Right, but
Nigeria is a
okay.
black country. It's founded by black people. It's majority black people there.
Okay,
So
I see
that
what
makes
you're
it a black country. So that's objective. And
Okay, I
it do
see.
sound. I
I see
know
what you're
what you mean. It do sound like I'm a Jesse Thumper and that I'm just in the whole. I get that. I do get that part. Right. And it was deep what you were talking about because man, I really do trust blindly what Hake says. You know, I kind of get all my news from Hake because I've never caught him in a lie. You know, I've never caught him in a lie. I kind of know his demeanor, and you're right. You should think for yourself. But man, I'm when I check the news, I go on X. I want to see what Elon and Trump are talking about. And then I go down to see what Hake and Jesse are talking about.
I understand
and that's
that.
just who I
I
That's
understand
who
that,
I trust. Yeah.
but I understand that
Mhm.
completely, and I know what you're saying because you think you say hate means well, just to me, so
Right.
you're looking at that, but but you're also not doing James any favors by
Right.
thinking that
That is
everything
judging
is
him.
said.
That's judging him as
Right,
good.
right,
Right.
because as
That's
soon as
evil.
he does something that you disagree with, then it's gonna be like, "Oh, I thought Hake was just this
I thought he was that.
some
Right.
guy."
That's true.
You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
And what does that
Right.
do? You know what I mean? That puts him in a certain way. So I'm
Yeah.
just saying that I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect. I'm just saying just
Yeah.
us recognizing that this is not how we should approach people or look at people in general, and not
Uh,
identify with it in that way because that's not reality.
See, but that's the thing. It is reality. It's like okay, I used to sell cars, right, at a Toyota dealership a long time ago, and it was mixed. But all the salesmen we knew, when a white guy walks in, it's a 90% chance that he has good credit and he's here to buy a car. So everybody is like
Yeah.
fighting, kind of like fighting, try to get to him first. Or if a white guy and a black guy walk in at the same time, the probability is that the
Yeah.
black guy has bad credit, the white guy he has good credit, and he's more likely to buy.
Yeah.
And that's just reality. It,
Yeah.
it sounds racist. It sounds evil.
Well, no, that's
but
reality. It's reality, but and those
yeah,
things like that, prejudices, I'm not against because if you see a black guy come up with you with a hood on at night, your
right,
prejudice is just gonna be a hold up. From
right, right.
experience, this is so. I don't think prejudices are incorrect. I'm more
Right.
so saying but I'm more so now. I'm talking about trying to paint a moral picture over the color being superior. It's just that
Right.
whites may happen at this time of life in history to where they happen to be on the morals, maybe even more justified side of doing things more decently and stuff like that. But it's times changed throughout the history to where, and there's also different areas of the world where it may be different. So it's like the culture, the actual culture, the actual thing we should be returning to is God. And in God, everybody is exactly the same. And that's not on some churchy type of thing, but in all reality, all who return to God within have God within, and nobody's favorited over another, those who truly return. So I just think of life in terms of what at the root of it, and at the root of
Right.
it, nobody is different. Everybody's the same
Yeah.
color, same everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. God. But would you say that God gave different races different talents?
Yeah, but those are irrelevant. Talents, what does that
Yeah.
mean? Like blacks entertain us, so are they less
Right.
of anything
So they.
because they maybe don't build a house? No, it's like we love entertainment as well. So it's like it doesn't paint a value, a moral picture over things that people's talents don't paint a moral picture.
Yeah. 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 It does, but it's in a practical way. Like if I if I'm picking teams for basketball and I can pick you or Hake, I want you on my team because I want to win.
I'm telling Hake,
Because
you
you
said
look more
that.
athletic than Hake. Huh?
I'm
I
I'm
know he's
I'm
gonna.
tell-
Yeah, right. But it's just the truth. It's not
no.
racist. It's not. It's just that you look more athletic. You look like you. I want to win. So that's how I see America. I want white people on my team because I want the best society. I want to win. I
Right,
don't want all these
but you
blacks
don't
and
want to
Mexicans
win, but
running around.
you're that's two different things. Yeah, you're saying two
You
different
think so?
things. Yeah,
I
because
see
right
the
now
same thing.
you're
Uh-huh.
saying right now when you say with the sports, you're like, oh, I want them on my same team. Well, you just want to win when it's the sports, right? You just want it to
Right.
win. You're not worried about whether um this is the righteous way to go. No, but if you now make it broader about a country, you don't want people on their side just so you can win. You don't want to just
That's what I
win.
want.
You
Yeah,
just so
that's what I want.
you want to win, but
I
winning.
just want a good society. I want
But it's
a
not a
high trust
game.
society.
You want people who are just. You want people who are right, who
Right,
have
and
love.
that's what makes that's how white people are. You don't think that's how white people
No,
are?
I don't. But not in itself. That's just not how white people are. White people, what you're talking about, which is how white people are, is that
Uh-huh.
they have things together, right? But
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
just
know the hearts. You don't know the hearts.
yeah, and it's a case by case basis. But generally, when I'm in the white side of town. It's like I don't have to worry about getting robbed. It's safe. I
Yeah.
don't got to have my head on swivel. When I'm around black people, it's a different story. I'm
Yeah.
scanning the room constantly,
That is
thinking
true.
someone might jack me. Yeah, so I see this whole thing as practical. So I want more people in my country who will make the country a place where it's high trust, low crime, and more functional. That's all I see it as.
Fair enough.
And,
Fair enough.
I don't think, but you're right. It's not saying you'll meet black people who are, better at that than white people. Hate probably could dance better than me. I don't know. Maybe he could beat me in basketball.
Yeah.
So it ain't nothing like that. I don't even think it's an argument. I think it's like a miscommunication, man.
Yeah. No, that's the point. And I want to say this one last thing about that. My main point, and it has always been, and I said it on the calls even a couple of times, is that when it comes to the South Africans coming here, is that, and this is my point, y'all, and this is just my clear point only. And if you argue anywhere around this, it's on you. Well, it's been on you, but is that my point is if two people, and I'll use in a reference to if two people need help, right? And their lives are horrible. They're depressed, suicidal, and both these two people need help. Would God pick one of those people over the next, right? Or would he pick both? And my point is that if both people are genuinely looking to overcome, God would choose both. He would not favor one over the other one, because people are saying, oh, it's not fair. Life is not fair. Like, God is not fair. If both people are genuinely looking for help, and I'll talk about genuinely looking for help, God's not going to turn either of them away. He's going to help both of them. So that's my point when it came to the South Africans, is that if Trump wants to help them because he genuinely sees they need help, then he's going to, we want to make sure that he's genuinely helping others that may need help. And it's not based off because they're white or whatever.
Yeah, see, that's a whole different argument. That's not even that's not even the point. That's something different.
Well, I think people, Chad still is hung up. Well, I guess.
And that's the thing. The chat, there's some people in there, they just want to, you can't really trust. There's some people that they just want to start some stuff, but they'll never call you and talk to your face about it, man to man. But it is funny. They're saying you selling Kill the Boar merch now. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, some of the stuff I'll be laughing at. But I do have to keep the calls moving, Josh. We had but that was good, man. I appreciate you calling in and we talking about it. Thanks, man.
Okay. All right, man. Appreciate it, man.
All right, have a good one. So interesting stuff. I'm gonna get back to the calls right now. I'm gonna tell you guys real quick the solution real quick, how to stop thinking like a group. For one, in order to overcome all things, the mind must be renewed. God has to renew the mind, right? And God can only do that in one of two ways. Two. And both these ways have to happen. Is one, we have to seek him, right? And the second is we have to be honest about what he reveals to us. 9 times out of 10, people do not want to be honest. It's hard to be honest. It's very hard to be honest because people think the mind has people believing that if they're honest, they're going to have to suffer some type of consequence about what they find with themselves, right? What they find out about themselves is going to be some consequence, right? I'm going to see that I'm a bad person. I'm going to see that I'm no good. I'm going to see that God is not going to forgive me for this thing. I'm going to see that it was so shameful that I did. So they'll hide it. They'll push it down. They'll run from it. They'll reject it. They'll deny it. All for the sake of not wanting to feel a certain way, right? But the only way to overcome that, the only way to move on from that is to be honest with self with it, right? Be honest. And that's what repentance is. Repentance is admitting to God that you're no good, but also those little deep little skeletons and secrets and darkness within, you're acknowledging and telling God that I need help here. Help me. I'm wrong. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And in that is when God can set you free. But I noticed that there's a strong hold on honesty that keeps people stuck in thinking like a group. They cannot be honest. They cannot take accountability. And that's why the Black community is the way that it is. And there's other communities too that think this way as well, because community and culture is just this way. Is they cannot accept the truth. And because of that is why you're not an individual. Also, you gotta truly seek. And people don't, and what I mean by that is that always going to somebody for an answer, always going to the Bible for an answer, always running to just to feel better is not going to solve your problems. You got to seek God within. You got to actually talk to him. Talk to him. You have actual concerns, go to him. Go to God. You can audibly speak. God, I need help. I don't understand why that's happening in my life. Like, you told me to do this and I'm doing this, but you're still not doing it. Like, help me understand what's going on. He will speak back. And I'm not saying you're going to hear this loud voice, but like, I got you, boy. That type of thing. But he will speak back to you. Though, however he gets the message to you, he will, especially if you're overcoming and recognizing. He'll speak back to you, but you don't speak to him. So he can't speak to you. You go to everybody else. You go to the middleman, but not the source. And he said, come to me. I have the teacher within that you have as well, but you won't look within and go to him. So you think like the group. Think for yourself by actually talking to God, seeking God. And some people say, well, he doesn't answer. I talk to him, he doesn't answer. Well, maybe you don't want the answer. That's another thing. Maybe you're not ready to hear the answer. Maybe you're not ready to hear the truth. Maybe you're not ready to accept the truth. Maybe you're a little afraid of the truth, how the truth might affect you. Maybe you're not ready to be honest with yourself completely because it hurts a little bit. You don't want the truth to get at your feelings. Well, then when you're ready, you'll be ready to let that go. But that's why most people think like a group. It's because, and why they don't think for themselves is because they don't seek for themselves. They take the easy route, which is advice or knowledge that they hear from the podcasts or from the church or the da-da-da, but not going within. And I know this for a fact because it's happening in my life, is that then you start to recognize the difference between God's voice and the devil's voice. It starts to get a little clearer, more and more and more, right? It just gets clear. And then you find yourself less depression, less stress, less that other thing. Doesn't mean that you won't have issues ever. Doesn't mean that you still won't have to deal with life. But you'll be a little better at it. Don't follow no man. Every single man on this earth, if you blind or woman, if you blind follow them, they will lead you astray because they're just human beings. Every single one, every single last drop. The Pope's Pope. The very last, the highest of the high, the highest white man. I'm gonna speak you guys' language. The highest white man on the top of the land. The whitest man. If you follow him, he will lead you astray. Because there ain't nothing wrong with getting advice. There ain't nothing wrong with somebody pointing the way. There ain't nothing wrong with somebody maybe giving you a little assistance. But if you're following him just because he said it, he will lead you astray. Why? Because he is just a human being, just like you. He will lead you astray. Absolutely. It will happen. Because he is not your source. She is not your source. God is your source. So get to him. And I'm so and I know I'm wrong for paying too much attention to chat because I don't even know these people. But the behavior, the character of some of these folks, let me chill. Because it's just chat. I just be shocked. But it's just people. It just be like, I just be like, what? And not all. But I just be like, what the crazy. They're your best friend one day, hate you next. So, shout out to the Devils. No, I'm playing, but serious. Anyway, let me go to Aaron at Maryland. Aaron, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Joel? How are you?
All is well, Aaron. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well myself.
Right on, man.
Earlier you were talking about thanks. I like that you guys say right on, by the way. That's a Cali thing, isn't it?
It might be.
I like right on. I don't say it just because I'm not from there, so it's like weird to be on the East Coast saying right on. Yeah. But maybe I'll start saying it because I like it.
Now I'm checking myself. I was about to say it. I'm like, hold on, let me.
Yeah, no, say it, man. You know what I mean? It's a situation.
I got you.
I was going to say earlier you were talking about, you said nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then I think you were saying that nobody cares, they pretend to care. And you're like, I don't get it. Why are people that you don't even care about this thing, why are you getting so riled up?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this is going to be great. This is actually my self-observation, and maybe it'll apply to everybody else. But I think that was like 2 weeks ago now, on a Friday, right? Or a week ago? I don't know.
Yeah.
When you had that conversation.
I think that was about a week ago. It might have been about a week, I'm thinking. Last Friday.
Yeah. So ever since that morning show, man, I don't know about everybody else, but I was getting a complete thrill out of it. From everything.
Yeah.
From the reaction of everybody, the comments. I was even in Discord, just, wow. I was in it.
Yeah.
I was watching myself while I'm in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the whole time it was just a thrill. And I enjoyed the thrill.
Yeah. It wasn't about you're saying it wasn't about the South Africaners or none of that stuff.
No.
Yeah.
No, bro, I don't care about any of that.
You're right.
I don't care about any of that. You know what I mean? And it was great that you said that, because the thing that snapped me out of it was when I was like, what about my life? What am I doing in my life?
Yeah.
Like, what about getting myself together? And it just like snapped me out of it. I was like, yo, I don't care about none of this. I don't care about
Yeah.
any of this at all.
Man.
Yeah.
100%, man.
So,
That's exactly what it is. Nobody really cares about that stuff. It's just for the thrill. You get caught up, and I understand sometimes you get caught up, but nobody
yeah, it's
really
thrilling.
cares. And they'll go to the and it's just human nature. All people, right, will go to the
Yeah.
extent to they'll die on the hill for no reason.
Yeah, you don't have to. You could just snap out of it and be
Right.
like, oh, I don't really care. It's cool. It's all good. And then you know what it is it's amazing because and this is recently, by the way. I don't know what happened to me, but I feel like a lot of love now, real love. And I'm like, man, if everyone
Yeah.
could snap out of it, you could realize that it wasn't ever that deep. Nobody cares either, and it's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah,
Fine.
it's all good.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%, Aaron, man. And that's a
Yeah.
perfect point. And that's a perfect point because that's what I was speaking on. And I'm glad that you shared that, because that's what I was speaking on, is that when you come out of that stuff, you realize that you never even cared. Nobody cares about none of that stuff. Everybody is just,
None.
none of it, because it doesn't even affect anybody's lives, really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
such a good point that you make, man. 100%.
There was a if I could share a story with you, there was an interaction I had with somebody, and we were both emotional, and we had an argument, and then the next day, there's so many thoughts like, oh, what if I have to face this person, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I realized again the same thing. Since I realized it from that first moment, now with this new thing, I was like, oh, I don't really care. So
Yeah.
it's on them if they want to continue it. Like,
Exactly.
and if I have to apologize, I'm down to apologize. It's no big deal.
Man.
And
Go
that
ahead.
person came to me. They came to me, right? And they were like about to apologize, and I was like, yo, it's all good. It's nothing. We don't even
Yeah.
got to bring it up anymore.
It's no big.
And they were like, I love you, man. And I was like, I love you
Yeah.
too. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good. What were we doing? It doesn't even matter.
That's such
You know
a
what I mean?
good point, though, man, too, because it's like, and I had a little realization last week too, that like a little moment that I had to where I was realizing too, and that's why I said it's across the board, is that you can even get caught up in judging people judging you. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
then you're like,
Yes.
oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, and then you get caught up in that. But I realize that, like you just said, for one, it's not a big deal. But for two, people are just confused, lost, and they don't know what they're blind and can't see, or maybe it's just not even really that big of a deal. And when we hold it against people, or we use
Yes.
it against
Yeah.
people, that's when it's affecting us, and it's silly. It's really silly at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you know what happens is now I realize the thoughts try to get me caught up again, because it makes me try to it tries to convince me to feel for those people. Like, man, I wish they would drop it.
Yeah.
Man, I wish but I can't even do that, because then I pick something up again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I have to literally have to drop it. And then if they drop it, I'm like so happy. I'm like, nice. That's dope. Now we can play like a kid.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Man, 100%, man. Dude.
I wanted to go into another thing while I was on hold. You brought up.
Yeah.
I wanted to question you on this. You said if two people exactly the same, they both cry out to God, He wouldn't reject either one.
Right.
He would help them, right?
Yes.
This goes to the South African thing and everything, but not really. Just the deeper meaning of it.
Yeah.
I was also going to say I agree with that, and I can see that. But also, I think it's important to remember that He helps them differently, which is the unfair part. You know what I mean?
Explain.
Well, for some people, they are crying out, or not crying out. Oh, yeah. Some people are crying out, and then they find a way out of hell or something, right? Like a practical thing that helps them in that situation. But some people are crying out, and God will leave them in their hell.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if we could relate it in a practical way to the South African thing, maybe those people needed to get out of there, and maybe some other people need to stay in there. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
So
That could
I might be dumb on that.
no,
I don't
maybe
know.
you could be making a point there, and the point
Yeah.
in the deeper point that I'm on board fully with, because of course anybody can do separate things, and you're right about that. But the main point that I definitely agree on is the fact that regardless that however whatever form help looks like, it's not
Yeah.
being rejected. And that's the point that I was trying to make with using the God example, is that however God is going to help that person, he's going to help them,
Yeah.
but he's not going to reject them. He's going to help them. So, that's the main point that I was making about it. And how whatever that looks like, it could be different.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say one thing from that Friday. I meant to bring up to you. There was one thing you made a mistake on, and maybe I'm wrong, but you said
Fair
that
enough.
refugees are the same as illegal immigrants, which they practically, man, they're not. It's not the same. You can't say that.
I don't remember that
But
I don't remember that I said that, but
yeah,
what
I
it
think you were caught up, but I don't know, maybe not.
yeah, I don't remember, but well, I mean, I know the refugees typically are the ones that are fleeing, and the ones that are let in, correct?
Yeah, they're seeking asylum, I believe. They're
Yeah, and
seeking refuge.
the legal aliens are oftentimes 99% of the time they're in here illegally, right? They
Right.
somehow,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely agree. I
It's
might have
illegal. It's
just
illegal.
misspoke,
Yeah.
yeah, because
You may have not caught it. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But
Well,
it looked like that.
fair enough, man. I appreciate it. I still appreciate you bringing it to the show.
I'm being fair, you see?
That's right.
I'm being fair.
That's
I'm being
right.
totally fair.
Right on, man. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Aaron. I
Yeah.
appreciate the call, man. Call me again. Good stuff.
Of course, man. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. You as well. Nice. Um. I got this one more last thing. I'm out of time, really, but American Anchor Caribbean coming in, and I got to get to this last story because I have to. How do I not? How do I not? This is from X and CNN. And I hate to do this to some of you fans of what's that show? He's got a couple shows out that are pretty popular. The first one is Breaking Bad. Come get your boy Bryan Cranston, y'all. Bryan Cranston or Cranstons. Come get your boy. What's his name in the show? Walter. Come get your boy Walter. He acting up. Bryan Cranston defends the black community in reference to the MAGA slogan. Here we go.
Make America Great Again. My comment is, do you accept that that could possibly be construed as a racist remark? And most people, a lot of people go, how could that be racist? Make America great again? I said, so just ask yourself from an African-American experience, when was it ever great in America for the African-American? When was it great? So if you're making it great again, it's not including them.
Get your boy. Get your boy. I mean, he's just trying to be nice. He's just trying to be fair. But I just want to say this last thing, and then I got to get the super chats real quick as well. I want to just say to maybe whites, blacks, whoever is listening, is that slavery has never been anybody's issue. Meaning slavery or anything that has happened to people, apartheid, Holocaust, has never been what has held people back. I'm not here to deny that any of those things happen. That's not my place to do, and I won't do it. And I don't have enough information to do it. But for the benefit of the doubt, from what I've been taught, for what I've heard, is that these things that could have seemed to have happened can have been really bad, right? Maybe at some points worse than others. And maybe let's just say that it was just really, really, really atrocious acts, just horrible, flat out stuff. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be acknowledged at all. I'm not saying don't acknowledge it. What I'm saying is that don't use it as an excuse, because a lot of the black people and other people in different communities that are complaining today about that stuff didn't even go through it. They didn't even go through it. And they're using it as an excuse to explain why they can't get ahead in life or whatever the case is. And I want to say this because I watched this little thing about the apartheid, because I had to look into this the little apartheid thing, a little South African thing a little bit. Just a little bit, looked into it a little bit. And there was a lady who was talking about what she's experienced in the apartheid, and she said that she's like, there's things that I experienced and the way they treated us, I'll never forget. And it had a long lasting effect, and it ruined our lives forever. And that mindset that she just had right there is the reason for it, not the apartheid. Because in her heart, she has resentment. In her heart, she has anger. In her heart, she has pain, which may be justifiable for what she's been through. Maybe been through some crazy stuff. But it's still not a justification for why you can't get ahead in life. But that's the justification that a lot of these communities use, is they blame it on the past. That's not your problem. You can overcome just like anybody else. The white man, anybody else can overcome. Right? You can overcome. And you can get ahead in life. And you can maybe even do better than those who say that you're not worth nothing or whatever. Slavery, apartheid, Holocaust, and none of that stuff is your issue. Your issue is anger, hatred in your heart. Because what that's doing is blocking you from being free. Right? It's blinding you to the real life, real reality. Right? True freedom. That's what's blocking you. And you have to be willing to let that go. And if you're not, it's not anyone's fault. It's not anyone's fault, no matter what. And I said one thing to somebody, and they were like, you can't say that. That's like mean. Or it's like insensitive. And I said that if a person got R-worded, that they can go on with their life unfazed by the action that happened. Like it never happened. That's possible. And I guess it came off insensitive, but the point is that it is possible, because the trauma that comes from it is the constant replay, the constant like guilt or shame or embarrassment. And I'm not saying I don't understand. Listen, I'm not saying you're not entitled to feel those things, but you don't get to use them for your benefit, is my point.